I'm having a blast with S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 so far, outside of obviously a few small performance issues here and there. It's been a whole lot of fun, but I will say there's a lot of stuff about this game that I did not know you could do right away. And so today I wanted to run you guys through 10 things I wish I knew sooner in S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2. Now, some of these are more on the basic side, and for any S.T.A.L.K.E.R vets, they may be even more obvious, but I know there's a lot of new players experiencing this game for the first time, and even for guys like me who played the original trilogy but just kind of forgot so much about it in the last 15 years. Hopefully this video can help make your playing experience even more enjoyable. Now, the first one is very basic, but it will over the course of the game save you quite a lot of time, and this is the fact that you can actually slide down ladders in order to make the traversal a hell of a lot faster. Now, it's obviously pretty basic. I'm sure anyone who's played a lot of shooters will probably just figure this out on their own, but the game doesn't actually tell you this. It just kind of happens to be a mechanic within the game, but as far as I know anyway, it actually never says that you can slide down the ladder. So when you're going down the ladder, if you just press the sprint button while you're heading down, that will make you go down a hell of a lot faster, and climbing up to really high places, this will make that traversal all the way down a hell of a lot less frustrating. Now, something else I didn't know right away, which I definitely caught on to earlier than I'm sure a lot of people will, just by accident to be honest, is the ability to actually unload weapons off the ground in order to take the ammo that is in the magazine currently. Now, obviously when you kill an enemy, you can loot their body, and let's just say they had, I don't know, 100 bullets in total, then usually you'll be able to take like the 70 off them from their body. But what a lot of you guys may not have known is that the 30 rounds that were currently in the magazine, for example, that will still stay in the gun. And so if you don't want to pick the gun up, but you do want the ammo from it, you can just hold that take button, and instead of picking up the weapon, it will just take that ammo instead. Doing this over the course of, you know, heaps and heaps of gunfights where you're killing a lot of enemies, this is going to save you a lot of ammo, and it is something you should definitely get into the habit of doing pretty much any time you see a weapon. Now, a little tip that I wish I knew earlier is essentially just to do with whenever you're running around exploring or whatever the case may be, the best thing you can do, unless there are obviously enemies right next to you, is that you should be running it with your bolt equipped, so that if you do come across any anomalies in a pinch and maybe you don't see them quick enough, then at least you've already got that bolt equipped, and therefore you can sort of deal with that anomaly a lot faster. I find that sometimes the anomalies are actually kind of hard to spot if you're sprinting. Some of them are obviously a lot more obvious and I guess larger than other anomalies, but some of them are pretty hard to see. And so I've found that it's really helpful to just have that bolt ready. And if I find myself sprinting and then all of a sudden go, oh shit, there's an anomaly right in front of me, well, I don't have to then switch to that while trying to sort of slow down and not take damage from it or whatever. And it has definitely helped me avoid taking some damage already in this game. Now, another one that the game, as far as I know, does not tell you is that there is a full stealth kill mechanic in this game. And it's actually probably one of the better ways to deal with enemies, because obviously it avoids using ammo, and if you can stay stealthy and kill all the enemies without anyone seeing you, it's obviously going to save you from taking any damage as well. All we need to do in order to get these stealth kills is literally just equip your knife, and then if you crouch and sort of sneak up to the enemies behind them without being seen, when you just press the regular attack button, it will just sort of enter into a stealth kill animation. And like I said, this is not only just really cool, it looks awesome in first person, and some of these kills are pretty brutal, but like I said, on top of that, it is actually probably the best way to approach any situations that you can. Now, before we go any further, I was looking through the analytics and I noticed that essentially 99% of you guys who are watching the S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 content here on the channel actually aren't subscribed. And so if you guys are new here, please do consider hitting that subscribe button. Not only is it completely free for you guys, but it also helps me out a hell of a lot, and it means these videos are more likely to show up for you guys as well. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 content. Now, the next one, as far as I know, is only available on PC, or at least only available on keyboard and mouse. I believe you will be able to potentially do this on the Xbox still, but you will need a keyboard and mouse, because I looked through the keybinds and I couldn't find anything about this when I had my controller plugged into the PC. But if you are playing with keyboard and mouse, it turns out you can actually change through your ammo types with certain different weapons in order to use different types of ammos for the same gun, therefore allowing you to kind of bring more ammo with you. Now, if you are on keyboard and mouse, all you need to do is essentially just press N to cycle through those ammo types. It does does show them down in the bottom right next to the actual ammo count. You can see a couple of little dots there. Now, if there are no dots, that just means you don't have multiple ammo types. But if you do see multiple dots down there, that means that you can cycle through a bunch of different ammo types, and that is obviously very handy at just kind of managing your ammo. And in some cases, obviously, it means you can bring more ammo with you, which could eventually save your life. Now, the next one is a mistake that luckily I haven't made myself, but it's one that I was probably very close to making, and I'm sure a lot of people will make this mistake. That mistake being pretty much upgrading your weapons or like repairing weapons early on in the game. Now, to be fair, upgrading them isn't a bad idea. I'm more talking about the repair mechanic, and it is quite expensive to actually maintain your weapons and keep them repaired so that they obviously don't start jamming up and stuff like that. The tip that I would give here is honestly just don't bother repairing your weapons unless you've found a weapon that you know you want to keep for a long time. In that situation, it's definitely worth repairing them because obviously if it's a really good weapon, you want it to be functional at all times. But for example, a regular like Viper 5 or the MP5, if that's getting low in durability, it's not worth going and spending money to repair that because killing an enemy most likely is going to lead to them dropping them. If you kill 5 enemies, I'd almost guarantee that one of them will have a Viper 5, and it's just a lot easier to go and pick that weapon up with slightly higher durability than the one you currently have, rather than spending thousands of coupons just to keep that weapon maintained. So don't waste your money on that early on. Like I said, if you've got a really good weapon, then it is definitely worth it. But for the more basic weapons that you can find everywhere, it is definitely not worth the money. Now, something else the game does mention slightly, but it is very brief and it doesn't actually explain it that much in detail, is the little icons that come up above your health bar. There are 3 different icons that can pop up at pretty much any given time. Those being a little blood icon, a weight icon, or essentially a little chicken drumstick, which is the hunger icon. Now, it is definitely worth keeping an eye out for these. They all obviously have pretty negative impacts. The bleeding icon means that you are currently bleeding, and so even if you're at full health, if you don't bandage yourself up, you will eventually bleed out, and it's very easy to just kind of forget that you're bleeding out. You think you've got full health, you've maybe killed all the enemies, and you think, all right, I'm safe now, I can just go on my way and continue exploring. And then in a couple of minutes, you could come across some more enemies, and what do you know, you look at your health and you're already nearly dead. So if you see that bleeding icon, it is definitely worth bandaging up. If you use a med kit, that does not fix the bleeding. You have to use bandages. So like I said, even if you're full health, if that bleeding icon is there and you've just used a med kit, that will not fix it. You need to use bandages. As for the weight icon, that essentially just means you're encumbered, which means you're carrying a little bit too much weight. Now, it's not that big of a deal. All it means is that you are slightly slower, and obviously you get slower and slower as you pick up more weight, but it does also mean your stamina will empty a lot quicker, as well as take a lot longer to recover as well. So if you see the weight icon, unless you've got stuff that you really need to bring back to town and sell it or something, then it is probably worth dropping some stuff. And then when it comes to the hunger indicator, that one again is pretty simple. It just means you need to eat, and if you get too hungry, you will just be a little bit less efficient. That can mean like you'll get a bit of weapon sway and all those sorts of things. Again, it is not really do or die like the bleeding effect, but it is definitely worth making sure that you're not hungry. Now, the next one is very simple, but not a lot of games actually have this, at least not so much on consoles anyway. A lot of PC games obviously do, but this is the ability to quick save. And this is very, very clutch. You are going to die in this game. And if you haven't saved in a while, obviously there is still the autosave function, but sometimes you're going to have to go back, 5 minutes or so after a death and go back through that entire section. So it is definitely worth constantly using that quick save function. On PC, it is just literally as simple as pressing the F5 button that will quick save, and you can essentially do that as much as you want really. But on Xbox, I'm actually not too sure what the keybind is for that. It will be in the settings though. So acquaint yourself with that keybind. And like I said, don't spam it over the top because I think it will eventually start overriding your super old saves and stuff like that. But if you've just got into a situation where there's a tough fight coming up, definitely make the most of that quick save function. Now, something else I definitely wish that I knew a lot sooner is that a lot of side missions can actually disappear completely once you move through certain parts of the main story. And so something I would recommend is if you're, a big fan of doing as much side content as you can and stuff like that, if you want to make sure you're getting extra coupons or getting extra gear through those missions, you definitely want to be checking off as many of those side missions as you can before you move on to the next main story mission. Now, obviously, it's not the case for all of them. Some side missions will be there from the very beginning of the game to the very end, but there is definitely a lot of side content here that unfortunately will just begin to kind of disappear as you move through certain missions, whether it's to do with a certain NPC dying, Sometimes it is just due to different regions being locked off, or even just the general progression of the story may sort of interfere with that side mission. So if you want to do as much side content as possible, definitely don't put them on the side and finish the main story, because when you come back, a lot of those will potentially be gone. Now, last but not least, we've got a very simple one, and this is just simply the fact that you should be organizing your inventory and making sure that it's all kind of laid out in a way that you can very easily understand it and very quickly access things when you need them. Not only is it good for myself just to keep my OCD intact, I hate when things are just all over the place, but like I said, it is just easier to manage in a pinch. If you really need to like open your inventory and use some food, for example, in the middle of a gunfight, well, if you open your inventory and you're just not sure where the hell everything's located, it could take you an extra 5 to 10 seconds to find it, and obviously that can be the difference between life and death. So it's good to lay it out in a way that you understand, maybe putting all the health items in, you know, one corner of the inventory, putting all the weapons down the bottom and stuff like that. Obviously do it however you want, but I think it is definitely worth keeping that inventory organized. But that is it for 10 things that I wish I knew sooner in S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, guys. I'm keen to hear what you guys think as well. So if there's anything you wish you knew earlier, be sure to leave a comment down below as well. I'm sure that's going to help out a lot of other people. And like I said, if you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any upcoming S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 content. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.